This is Ronnie Nichols, and I'm going to make a little video here on this fret job I'm doing on this banjo. And I've already done a good bit of this work. I didn't start out to make a video with this because it was just a normal fret job, and I'm sure you've probably seen a lot of people doing fret work. And I put about 4 frets in it, and I just noticed that they weren't staying very well, even when I widened the thing on the fret. So I determined that these frets had been glued in there with some substance. Maybe it was hide glue or epoxy. I just decided to go ahead and put the rest of these frets in there and epoxy them, and then I don't have to worry about them. We've got this little clamp on here to keep from ramming into the edges and knocking the binding loose. Here's my 15/1000 of an inch little saw blade. It's real narrow this way. This part's narrow because if it's any wider, it's hard to keep the thing straight. So this is narrow enough. It's got a little flex in it that you can use it. Now see that white stuff coming out of there? I could probably zoom this thing in a little bit. Maybe you can see it better. These ebony fingerboards will chip out on you pretty easy. Now we're going to go to the next one. Now I'm not going to show any more of this cleaning project because it's all going to be the same. And I mentioned Frank Ford's name. I've learned more from Frank Ford than all the years of experience that I've had. See that white stuff? I'd say that's epoxy. Kind of smells like it, but you can kind of wiggle this toe back and forth on the sides, and that glue's white and the ebony's black, so it's not hard to tell when you're getting it out. While I'm thinking about it and talking about Frank Ford, of course I didn't have the camera out here when I was taking these frets out, but here's the this is just a Weller soldering gun. I don't know if it's a pistol grip type, but this is the thing I learned from Frank. You cut that soldering tip in two, and when you lay it down on that fret, it'll get hot. I mean, right quick. And for just heating frets up, take them out, it really works good. So we nip off the end. Try to catch that little plug there where you don't mess up something with it. And this is number 21 right here. And we're going to nip it in the bud, as Barney said. There's number 21. And we'll straighten that out as we go. Now, there are 11 frets ready to go in there. We're going to epoxy them. we're going to take some tape, masking tape, and tape the edge of this binding up. Alright, we got some epoxy mixed up here, and a toothpick, and we're going to try to feed this into these slots. Now we'll see if we can get these frets down in there and get it clamped up before that stuff starts setting up. Well, it's been about an hour now, and I'm going to unclamp this thing and clean this stuff out from around these frets. Okay, I've got all that scraped off there, and I'm going to work this over with some number 4/0 steel wool. Now, the next thing we're going to do is to file the edges. Now we're going to take this little safe edge file here, work on the ends of these frets. I've got a little piece of art gum or eraser, whatever you call it, and I'm going to wrap it around this piece of 400 grit sandpaper. Now we're going to just turn it over, and you guessed it, we're going to do the same thing on the other side. We're going to take a magic marker, and we're going to darken the tops of these frets. We're going to run up and down through here. And true up these frets. A little bit right there. Alright, that's pretty true. Now, what we're going to do now is I'm going to blow this dust off here. And I'm going to tape the fingerboard up with this this electrical tape. Now we're going to tape this fingerboard up so that when I crown these frets, although I use a safe edge file and stuff on it, but we don't want to damage that fingerboard. Now, to crown the fret, you want to round over the top. You don't want the top flat on it. So it feels a lot better. I've got a little safe edge 3-corner file that I've ground the sharp edges off, the ends rounded off. And that's what I start out with. What we're doing, we're filing a little bit on the top and a whole lot on the edges. I'm trying to round this thing off. Alright, we got all 22 of them crowned with that file. And now we're going to approach it with a little different tool here. Now we're going to use this same little piece of art gum, eraser, whatever, and some 400 grit sandpaper wrapped around this. And we're going to smooth these things down just a little bit more. I'm going to round over the ends of it a little bit with this 400 paper. That's got all the scratches out of it and got a pretty good polish on it there. So we're going to do all the frets with this thing, just like all of them doing the same. Okay, we've got all 22 frets sanded with 400 on the top part. Now we're going to wrap some 1500 grit around this same little piece of art gum, and we're going to just go over them with this 1500. It just polishes them a little bit more, smooths them down a little bit more. Now we've got the tops of these frets the way we want them. Still got a little bit of work to do on the edge, but I'm going to take this tape off. I've got a little small file here. It's made, I don't know whether it's made just for this or not, but it works well for it. But it's a Stuart McDonald file. It's got a round edge on, safe edge on one end and on one side and a square one on the other. But what we're going to do, we're going to hit this thing right on the corner of that fret. And that smooths that end of that fret up, kind of rounds it over. And like old Frank told me, what you do to one, you do to all of them. Now we're going to take some 1500 paper. We're going to go along this outside edge and smooth it down. Now we got some 4/0 steel wool. Working on this with. Catching the fingerboard and usually don't go across the grain, but with this finer steel wool, it doesn't show up. Now, what we're going to do, we're going to check these frets again. Make sure we don't have anything high. I believe we got us a fret job done here. This 5th string nut on this banjo was too low. So we're putting a new one in here. Turned out pretty nice. The old banjo got a good sound to it. It's kind of hard to work with this right up next to the